Before we come to the page, before the first word is ever written down or read or listened to, there is a longing to connect. My name is Charlie Mehrhoff, your host here at Before the Page, a podcast featuring poetry, parable, fiction, and words to echo our longing. Let's begin our 30th episode of Before the Page with an ancient Sufi parable attributed to the Qadari Order. Once there was a rogue who was caught by the people of a village. They tied him to a tree to contemplate the suffering which they were going to inflict on him, and went away, having decided to throw him into the sea that evening, after they had finished their day's work. But a shepherd, who was not very intelligent, came along and asked the clever rogue why he was tied up like that. "Ah," said the rogue, "some men have put me here because I will not accept their money." "Why do they want to give it to you, and why will you not take it?" asked the astonished shepherd. "Because I am a contemplative, and they want to corrupt me," said the rogue. "They are godless men." The shepherd suggested that he should take the rogue's place and advised the rogue to run away and put himself out of reach of the godless ones. So they changed places. The citizens returned after nightfall, put a sack over the shepherd's head, tied him up, and threw him into the sea. The next morning they were amazed to see the rogue coming into the village with a flock of sheep. "Where have you been, and where did you get those animals?" they asked him. "In the sea there are kindly spirits who reward all who jump in and drown in this manner," said the rogue. In almost less time than it takes to tell, the people rushed to the seashore and jumped in. That was how the rogue took over the village. Let us offer another teaching story from the Qadari Order. This is called The Vine. A certain man planted a vine, well known as being of a kind which produces edible grapes only after 30 years. It so happened that as he was planting it, the commander of the faithful passed by, paused, and said, "You are a remarkable optimist if you hope to live until that kind of vine bears fruit." "Perhaps I shall not," said the man, "but at least my successors will live to benefit from my work, as we all profit from the work of our predecessors." "In any case," said the ruler, "if and when any grapes are produced, bring some of them to me. That is, if both of us have escaped the sword of death, which is hanging over us all the time." He went on his way. Some years later, the vine started to bear delicious grapes. The man filled a large basket with the choicest bunches and went to the palace. The commander of the faithful received him and gave him a handsome present of gold. The word went around, "An insignificant peasant has been given a huge sum in exchange for a basket of grapes." A certain ignorant woman, hearing this, immediately filled a basket with her own grapes and presented herself to the palace guard, saying, "I demand the same recompense as the man who was rewarded this morning. Here is my fruit. If the king gives money for fruit, here is fruit." Word was taken to the commander of the faithful, whose answer was, those who act by imitation and the arrogance which underlies the lack of inquiry into the circumstances which they try to imitate, let them be driven away. The woman was sent away, but she was so annoyed that she did not trouble herself to ask the vine grower what had really happened. The following parables have been compiled in a collection, Tiny Tales from the Sufis, Laura Gibbs, Jesus and the Fool. A fool chased Jesus through the wilderness. Jesus fled as though from a lion. "Why are you fleeing?" shouted the fool. "I am fleeing from you, fool." "But aren't you Jesus, who heals the deaf and the blind?" "Yes." "Who brings life to birds made of clay?" "Yes." "Then why are you afraid of me?" asked the fool. "I can heal the sick and I can quicken lifeless matter, but there is nothing I can do for the fools. I have tried to save them, but a fool's heart is hard. It is the sand in which no green can grow." The dervish and the ship's captain. A dervish was crossing the sea on a ship. "Someone has stolen my bag of gold," shrieked one of the ship's passengers, and the captain ordered a search of everyone on board. Suspicion soon fell on the dervish. "Strip off your clothes," said the captain. But the dervish said, "O God, do thy will." And from the sea thousands of fish arose, each bearing a priceless pearl in its mouth. The dervish grabbed a handful of pearls, cast them on the ship's deck, and then rose up into the air. "Keep your ship," he proclaimed. "I will go with God." The beggar and the king. A beggar fell at the king's feet, professing his love. "For daring to love me," said the king, "you must choose, beheading or exile." "O beloved king," replied the beggar, weeping, "I will go into exile." But the king ordered the guards to behead him. Later, in private, the king's minister asked, "Why did you execute that beggar?" "Because he was not a true lover," replied the king. "If he truly loved me, he would have chosen death, and then I would have spared him and become his dervish. But he loved his head better. He didn't love me at all." This is the parable of the palace with one door. Fearing his enemies, a mighty king built his palace without windows. There was one door only, guarded by 1,000 soldiers. Then one day the king took a walk. A Sufi by the roadside laughed at him. "Why are you laughing?" asked the king angrily. "The door is still open to your enemies," said the Sufi. "You need to brick it in." "The palace would then be a tomb," protested the king. "So it is already," replied the Sufi. "Eliminating doors and windows, you eliminated life. Widen the doors, widen them until the walls are no more. That is life." A prayer for a tyrant. There was a dervish whose prayers were very acceptable to God. One day his wanderings took the dervish to Baghdad, and there the tyrannical governor summoned the dervish into his presence. Pray a good prayer for me, the governor commanded. The dervish prayed, "O God, please take away this man's life." The governor shouted, "What kind of prayer is that?" "It is a prayer for you and for the whole world," replied the dervish. "Nothing in this world's bazaar lasts forever. I prayed that you be free of life, and so then the world will be free of your tyranny." Now we turn to some Sufi poetry composed in the 13th century by Abul Hasan al-Shustari, leader of the Withdrawn, believer in the absolute unity, God alone and nothing else. Being devout, al-Shustari did not imbibe alcohol. When al-Shustari speaks of wine, he alludes to being in the presence of the beloved, to being in the presence of God. My drink and my ride are sweet, and my beloved takes care of me. O my friends, forgive me my prostration and approach. A fine and fragrant wine, all light shines forth from it. The pourer pours it. May it be my reckoning. I am drunk on love, and I have no comfort without it. Whenever I call out, "O God," my response is, "At your service." My love served me cups of a wine unpressed, the drink of the pure, in which all things appear. I took a sip and fell for you, O majestic. My bride was unveiled to me, and I saw nothing but perfection. My intoxication got me drunk as it did other men. This wine revives souls. Whoever drinks it gets drunk. Unveiled to me like a bride, and I saw the sun and moon. Pay attention, brother. Hold your tongue and hold on to this wondrous secret so that the veils will be lifted from you until you see the beloved from yourself and in yourself. She is everything if you understand or have insight. Go back to your essence and dive in, but don't stop on the slopes. The commoners will languish in heedlessness while you see your love openly. O you ignorant in these affairs, submit to what you see. The wine goes round amongst us, and every one of us is drunk. See the men with us here present with their hearts so full. See them all dancing. The secret is manifest in them. It was for this they gave their souls, and their night has turned to day. Up to this point, this episode has been all Sufi, all old world, all ancient. Yet we here in the West, as humanity always, have been gifted with our saints, with our wild and wonderful seekers. And some of them walk among us now, throughout these very days of violence, uncertainty, and excessive noise. They are the calm within our human storm. So we will finish up this episode of Before the Page with two poems from the Rocky Mountain mystic Jerry Smaldone. Enough to be an old man gazing into the kind morning sun, not in too much pain for change, not dying an ugly death, not yet just being anyone. The bright-eyed angel negotiates for sweets. Squirrel and bird hungrily stake out their beat. Plants still bloom and fruit if you water through the heat. You still don't know who to believe in a world gone mad, and this drives you to confusion, desperation, a search that leads inside, where the silence lends comfort to what you cannot hide. You see yourself clearly, the result of what seems timeless years, the difficulty of refilling yourself with joy, of knowing that all you can do is to be, all you have is here, all that matters is to give and keep on giving. And then the whole world opens up to love. Step by step. It's best to walk right after sunset or sunset, when the rays reflect off your lashes, a miraculous electric rainbow connecting you directly to the gorgeous golden globe. Those without a dog tend to shuffle, head down and hapless, hoodie pulled over their eyes, as if they're holding a secret they could never reveal, or a singular reflection too precious to share. Step by step, they tread the hollowed-out houses deep in the depths of soul, swallowed by the mystery that lies behind each door, not to touch, not to pick at words drawn in deliberation, but to dive into the layers of birth and let them have their way. The mind blinks off, gone past memory, lost in blind awareness, rising higher into the vat of stars blinking on and off, swirling around the burnt shadow of joy and misery into spatial possibility. The sun is our master, the moon our mistress, and great oceans lie between. May you realize the heartfelt gratitude coming your way for listening to this episode of Before the Page. The parables from the Qadari Order can be found in The Way of the Sufi, compiled by Idries Shah and first published in 1968. If you are unfamiliar with al-Shustari, Philip Holm of the Let's Talk Religion podcast gives a wonderful introduction. Also, his readings of al-Shustari's poems in English are sublime. If you wish to reach out to us here at Before the Page, that's easy enough. Just go to beforethepage@gmail.com, spelled just how it sounds, beforethepage@gmail.com. Until the next, be well, be in love.